I'm the managing partner and founder of Kinzie Capital Partners. We're a lower middle market focused private equity firm headquartered in Chicago. And I started the firm after a 20-year career in investing, so had done everything from debt capital markets to restructurings, bankruptcies, private equity investing, structured equity, and really saw a need for more investment into lower middle market companies in the Midwest. Our culture is actually very collaborative. We're somewhat of a startup. We're only 2 years old. And so the team that started Kinzie, the team that started at Kinzie is a little more like a family today because we're a smaller team. But as we grow, I think that will change a little bit. But the work we do is very intense. And it takes an enormous amount of actually intellect as well as emotional intellect. So it requires a lot of focus and time. And I think just generally our model is work hard and have fun. So we know that there are going to be times where it's very intense and the work gets hours are long, and then the times we're not in the middle of a deal, we really try to make sure everything's more balanced for our team. So it was interesting. I was introduced to the internship program, the CFS program, through a friend of mine who had been working with CFS for really, I think for him it was more data entry. And I was starting the firm and not really sure what I was going to need help with, but I knew I was going to need help. And it was, it's a startup, so I knew I was going to need help with almost everything when I started the firm. And he had suggested reaching out to Karen and talking to her about potentially, the CFS program, particularly because I'm in private equity and it's kind of a unique, I guess private equity would be, it's unique to have undergraduate interns in a private equity firm, but I kind of coupled that with the idea of a startup and thought, okay, I could definitely use help with a lot of different things, not sure exactly what, but so my first two people who started with me were actually CFS interns. So they helped me with everything from setting up our phone lines to building our CRM system and just initial presentation materials. And that's really, so I would say, there's a lot of ways to go with the program, but for me, that was the first time. And then since then, we've actually developed the program so that, today we know it's a 10-week program. We have an onboarding process. We've got a curriculum that we've developed for our undergraduate interns to actually teach them how to spread numbers, very basic, and then also help with presentation materials. And then we have we actually created a test model for them to learn over their 10-week period and model out a public company. So we've actually developed an entire curriculum for the undergraduate interns. And along the way, they're getting some academic growth, and we are having them work on small projects. And for us, as a private equity firm that is focused on consumer manufactured products, services, businesses, that's all ultimately, at the end of the day, very consumer driven. And so having just young ideas, not, and they're fresh, without them having been altered by, corporate America, is really nice for us too. I love the energy of having, young people in the office with us. So I actually think of it, these are really talented kids. Like most of the time when we're narrowing down, we get a list of resumes. We filter them based on what we think their interests might be. And if we think, based on, again, it's a resume, so it's very difficult to tell, but I'm not always focused on the grades. Like, I know that Northwestern, just to get into Northwestern, I mean, God knows I could not get into Northwestern today. But they're very talented kids. And what we do try to do is, based on the resume, really identify, do we think they would have interest in this field, and would they be a good fit, right? Like, we actually spend a lot of time looking at their hobbies and extracurricular activities, and to see if that might be a match. And then we do Skype interviews, and actually it starts with my associate. One of our associates and analysts will do a number of phone and Skype interviews, and then narrow it down to maybe two or three interns, and we may take one or two interns. We actually include them in all of our team meetings. So we do, not unlike most investment firms, all of our team, we have a team meeting, an investment committee meeting, and a pipeline meeting that all happens on Monday morning. So it's a really packed half of the day, to start the week. And so we always ask the interns to start on a Monday and start in that meeting, and they have to introduce themselves, which can be a little bit daunting, but they do it. Introduce themselves, and then they get to sit in and start with the whole notion of being a fly on the wall, and just to see what our processes are like. I think the first few weeks is probably very overwhelming for them, and I think by the 10th week they at least have picked up on terminology and ideas and what we're really talking about in terms of making investment decisions. After their first half day, they spend another half day just kind of onboarding, so going through the curriculum, getting their first assignment. By the second week, we actually, as part of our curriculum, we have an accounting exam, but it's based on materials that we give them to study. It's very basic, but we just want them to have that before we teach them how to do all the modeling. So there's, the other thing we do is somebody on our team will take them out to lunch, and then we also do a one-page expectations, one-page expectations form, so that we know what they're expecting to learn, and we tell them what we expect them to learn, the 10 weeks that they're with us. So what I find is project-based work is probably the best, because it's a 10-week, right? It's only a 10-week, I would say, assignment or internship. And so there are certain things that are really easy to give interns, like data entry, learning our CRM system, maybe pulling reports. That's more of a project-based approach. And then there are things, we always have at least one type of research project that we like to have our undergrad interns work on. It might be alongside an analyst, an associate, or someone else on our team. And a lot of times I'm asked to speak on panels and in the community, and so they'll help with presentation materials. So I think it just depends on what the need is. But today, we have an intern right now, and I've been working on research around millennials and Gen Z and their and their habits, and kind of what to expect from these generational shifts, both from a labor perspective and also as consumer spenders. And so our intern right now has been helping me kind of aggregate that data, working directly with me and our graduate school intern, aggregating that data, putting into more presentation material so that we can start writing papers on it. So that's that would be a project that I try to at least find one thing for the undergrad interns so that they have direct exposure to everyone on the team. So with that one, they have direct, he has direct exposure to me. And it used to be, when we were 2 years ago, everyone had direct exposure to me. And as we've grown, it's become harder and harder. So, you know, the project-based work is the best way to kind of handle that. Our performance review process within Kinzie is constant feedback loop. So we will do a annual review, but there's no surprises, right? At the annual review, my goal is there's no surprises. So we have a constant feedback loop, and so it's pretty constant. That's why it's about. But the formalized, I would say the formalized approach is we have our one pager, we go through expectations, and then toward the end of the internship, we check in on that one pager and see kind of, did we accomplish everything we wanted to, good and bad. I always ask, I personally do the exit interviews for the interns because I want to hear what worked, what didn't work, and is there anything that we can do to improve the experience. And the other thing I do try to do is at least do check-ins every couple of weeks, and I think our whole team really does that for all of our interns. So we had one intern that just wasn't, we're a very social group and we try, I think because we're a small group, it's important that people engage and are happy to be in the office, because one person being off affects everyone. I think sometimes people don't realize that, but when you're a team of 7, 8 people and someone's in a sour mood, like it really does affect the rest of the members. And so we did have an intern, and I could tell like she was not happy being, you know, in the office. And I just pulled her aside and I was like, what is it that you don't like here? And then I found out is that she was really homesick. So it wasn't about the work. And I think we try to adjust for her, and she's from another country. And so, you know, those types of things, and it wasn't so much her work, it was the attitude, right? And that is actually more detrimental than not being able to do good work, because it's 10 weeks. Like the 10 weeks, it's like people are gone after 10 weeks, that they're not really cutting it. And I think the only other, because I've had incidences where like they couldn't do the work and like just probably should not be in financial services. And we were pretty honest about that feedback when this particular intern left. I've also had instances where people have really exceeded my expectations, and I've been very strong references for them when they've been finding jobs or looking for other internships. So we've actually placed interns that worked with us in other jobs and internships. My evaluation process is if we look at all the work they did. I think it's constant feedback loop, so we know generally as a team how we feel about them. And if the team is supportive, like we're kind of an open book on references. We will not do references for people we don't think we're strong. A private equity internship will always look good on your resume, so that should always go on. And but I think again, it depends on how you work, because people will call and reference check, right? So, and we all kind of know each other. The world is small, you know. It's like it seems like it's really big, and then it's not that big, you know. So, but I would say, I mean, I've had interns put on their LinkedIn right away that they're interning for us, that they're engaged with us on social media, and we like that. Like we want to have like an alumni group, and because we consider the reason it's so important for us to have not just to have interns here and not just to help us with the work, but we recognize that once they're done, they're essentially brand ambassadors for Kinzie. So if they did not have a good experience, like that's not good for us, right? So I'm happy to have them on social media and to say that they've been with us. I like when our interns are gone and they still like all of our posts. Well, I love Karen because she listens to our needs. And I just think it is, and I actually have told all of our interns this, they are so privileged to be at a school that has a program like this and someone who cares so much about their professional development post-graduation. And I think it only comes from being at a top university like Northwestern. Honestly, like I went to a Big Ten school, and there's not Northwestern, another Big Ten school, and it was very big, and we just did not have this type of career development opportunity. So, I remind them, I'm like, this is not normal. Like, this is not the norm. CFS is like not a norm program for most universities. We actually strategically put our undergrad interns right outside my office, because then they're right in the center of all of the communication lines, because my door is like a it's like my office is like a rotating door. So they're always, in the mix, because I think sometimes when you're low man on the totem pole, people don't make an effort to come see you, but because they're right outside my office, like everybody sees them all the time. So it was very strategic on my part in terms of like where they sit.